and welcome along. It's episode 33 of a Thai football podcast with me, Dale Farrington.
And me, Rob Bernard.
Hello, Rob. How's things?
Yeah, tremendous, mate. It's good when the biggest issue is trying to decide what Farang food to have before you go to football tomorrow.
Have you made a decision yet?
I'm not sure, no. There's an extensive menu where I go.
You'll have to let me know what you have in the end. I'll be on tenterhooks now. Right, we've got a packed programme this week. Lots to cover, so we'll get straight into it. We're going to start with Jan, who's been providing us with updates from the AFC Asian Cup. And I caught up with him for a long chat about his thoughts of the tournament overall once Thailand were eliminated, how he thought they'd performed, and where we go from here. So this is me and Jan talking about all things Thailand national team. A Thai football podcast. Interview. Welcome back, Jan. It's nice to have you back on a Thai football podcast.
Yeah, thanks. I've been on here a lot recently. It's quite fun. Thank you.
And as you've probably gathered, I am suffering a little bit. I'm full of cold. I've got an absolutely rotten sore throat, so I apologise in advance.
Don't worry, Dale. I'll pick up the slack and I'll do the talking. Don't worry.
Thank you. So you've come on today again just to do a quick summary of the AFC Asian Cup, which finished for Thailand on Tuesday, sadly. I mean, obviously the tournament's still going on, but we're out of it. And it always seems a bit difficult to feel motivated to watch something when your team's been knocked out, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's a real shame because it seems like the attention is picking up even more now. Such good games this weekend from a neutral perspective. And if Thailand had been in that discussion playing against the host Qatar, I think it would have been great exposure for us, our national team. So it's a real shame. I was more optimistic pre-tournament than pretty much anyone I'd spoken to. A lot of people that I spoke to thought we were going to go home in the group stage. And I was convinced we'd make the last 16. I didn't expect us to go any further than that, but there's still a big feeling of disappointment because of the optimism that tournament generated. And it's a very strange feeling. And I'm glad I've had a couple of days to sort of sort through everything and gather all these feelings. And while I was doing that, I promoted an article that my friend Ob wrote exactly 4 years ago when we were knocked out of the AFC Asian Cup in 2019. And he talked about how much Thailand as a society loves its tragic heroes. By that, he means people who try, do their best, and then fail in an honorable way that gives them almost more glory than had they had succeeded. And a lot of Thai dramas are built on these kind of characters. A lot of the famous Thai fables and current Thai dramas are built on this character archetype. And we seem to love filling this archetype is the point that he made. And he compared it to last time. What he said was, okay, we came in with the manager Milovan Rajovac. He got sacked after one game. We hired a truck driver, that's not an exaggeration, to be our head coach for the remaining games. And he got us to the round of 16 against all odds, fighting valiantly and then losing. And that gave us a lot of satisfaction as a country. And now again, I feel like we're guilty of the same thing where we sabotage the preparations for this tournament. We give Ishii a week. So we have this sense that it's going to go wrong. And then when we do okay, there's suddenly this sense of we've done fantastically, we've achieved a lot, and then we fall valiantly and the Thai public is satisfied. And that's a bit sad, and it's exactly what happened 4 years ago. It's a little bit sad. There's no introspection because we lower our own expectations to our own folly. And then when we succeed our low expectations, we pass our low expectations, then we think we've succeeded when we haven't. I think objectively, this is the most average Thailand tournament. It's the most 7 out of 10 standard Thailand performance. We are good enough to get out of the group stage. We deserved it and we did it. And then we lose at the first knockout round. And the only thing that makes this one different is that we didn't concede through an entire group stage. Well, I will give them credit for that. That is a genuinely remarkable thing. But it's not something that's worthy of celebration. Had we made the quarterfinals, I think then we would be worthy of celebration. Had we made the semifinals, I would organize an open top bus tour through Bangkok, frankly. But at this stage, to achieve what we did last time, it's nothing to celebrate. And that's sad because that feeling of celebration was growing since the first game. So whether this was in person in Qatar when I was there, whether it was friends I was speaking to, whether it was on Twitter, there was this sense of hype and anticipation building that this team was something exceptional, something special. And then the Uzbekistan defeat kind of pulled the curtain back and showed actually what you've been seeing is just standard Thailand. And that's an oddly deflating feeling. It's almost like everything that came before was a mirage.
It's interesting what you say about the tragic hero failing at the final hurdle. Being English, I can identify with that. There's nothing we like better than going out to Germany on penalties in a semi-final, failing heroically. That seems to be something we have in common. But with Thailand, throughout the group stages, they did get that momentum and hopes were definitely rising, weren't they? And as you've just said, I think they do deserve a lot of credit for getting out of that group, not conceding, not losing. And many people were blaming the tactics for the defeat. Do you think that's where we went wrong? Do you think if he'd have adopted different tactics, been a bit more positive from the start in that game, we could now be talking about Thailand's participation in the last 8?
Well, see, this is the thing, and this is where I get a bit too abstract in my commentary on football. But in real life, right, you take actions that are good and bad of their own merit, right? Like if you do something bad, it's bad. Like there's an objective merit to things you do in real life. But in football, there's no such thing. You know, it's only a good thing if it gets the result you want, and it's a bad thing if it doesn't get the result you want. There is no other metric to judge decisions in football other than results. Had Ishii got the win, we know for a fact that everybody would say this guy's an absolute genius. He rested Super Choke and Supanat. He waited till they were fresh, and then they made the impact they did because they were fresh, and that's why we won the game. That's how that commentary would be. Personally, I would have liked to start at least one of them in place of Patompon because Patompon was dreadful. But we only know that in hindsight. You know, we wouldn't have known that a player like Patompon, who is known in the Thai league for his dribbling and his ability to hold onto the ball and get out of pressure, that he would just choke at this stage. The Patompon's problem in that game wasn't that he was out of his depth technically. It was that he clearly was nervous and he'd never played in a stage like that before, and he just collapsed mentally. And Ishii has no way of knowing that's going to happen. He took a calculated risk, and the calculated risk failed. I don't think that's bad per se. It's regrettable, but I don't think it's bad per se, because if we got the result, it wouldn't be bad. And the second point is that people have used this decision of Ishii's in support of the argument that Ishii is a defensive coach. I don't think there is any evidence of that. If you look at the long run of his career in Thailand, he has endeavored to play attacking football at every opportunity, even with Samut Prakan City. He came with Samut Prakan to Muang Thong and attacked for pretty much most of the game. He was in, he went to some difficult grounds like Buriram and tried to play football. He always endeavored to be a proactive team when that was the incentives that he had. But with Thailand, ever since the second half of the Kyrgyzstan game, our incentive has been to protect what we have. In the first half of the Kyrgyzstan game, you watched that first half, we were excellent. We were all over Kyrgyzstan. We were pushing them back. We could have scored 4 goals in that first half alone against Kyrgyzstan. That's brilliant. Then we're already a goal up, and then we score a second almost immediately after the halftime break because we come out so strong, so attacking, and we score. Now we're 2 goals up. We're 2 goals up, and we have a long tournament ahead. Why would you risk pushing and attacking and then conceding a goal, right? Of course, you'd hold on to what you have. So we did. Then the Oman game, same incentive. Hold on to what you have because all you need is 4 points. And if you open up, Oman want you to do that because Oman are a counter-attacking team. So your incentive is to hold back and defend. Then Saudi Arabia, again, we have no reason to win. And actually, if we win, we play Korea. So it's actually better to lose or better to get a draw in that case. If you're looking at it from a purely pragmatic standpoint, that Uzbekistan is an easier opponent than South Korea, even though Uzbekistan are excellent, I should add. They are excellent. I think they'll make the next World Cup, frankly. But they're an easier opponent than Korea. So at every point, Ishii just responded to the incentives in front of him. I don't think that means he's a defensive coach. That we don't have enough sample size to say that.
I think you are dealing in 2 separate entities here, though, aren't you? The group it's a league, effectively. So you're playing a different kind of football. Your whole aim in group football is to qualify. The game against Uzbekistan was a knockout game. There had to be a winner. The tactics he chose in the group stages worked for the very reasons that you've just explained. That was what we had to do to get out of the group. And we won't get into the argument of losing games in order to avoid certain teams, because that brings up some very bad memories for me about the Thailand national team, as I'm sure it does for many others. But when you're in a knockout game and you just said he's an attacking manager, that's when you play to your strengths. And I just think if he'd have been a little bit bolder, that we could have been talking about a different outcome now. And it could be a generational thing, Jan, I don't know. But I was kind of raised on teams would always play their strongest 11. They always would, whether it was the great Liverpool side of the 70s and 80s, whether it was the great Leeds side of the 1970s. you know, the Man United side of the 90s. They'd always play their strongest 11 in every single game and go out and try and win it. To me, that seems what we should have done on Tuesday.
I agree with that. Look, I do think Ishii got it wrong, but what I'm saying is he got it wrong because he didn't get the result. I think he should have started Superchok. I can understand leaving Supernat out because Supernat's not match fit, but having already rotated the whole team against Saudi Arabia, you would think Superchok is fit enough for 90 minutes of high level play. So yeah, this starting Potompon was obviously a mistake, and I woke up for the game in the morning, saw the lineup, I was like, oh God, we're in for something here. I don't know what he's done. That was my first reaction, but we can see the game plan. We can appreciate what the game plan would have been while admitting that he was wrong. So I think we agree. I think we both admit he did the wrong thing, but we see the game plan and we're like, yeah, if it had worked, it would have worked, but it didn't.
I think it's the kind of games you gamble in. Don't you just go out there and play to your strengths?
I hope he would have learned from that. In reality, if I had to really say it, I think we lose anyways. Whether we play our best team, we make a gamble, or we do whatever, I think we lose. I think that team is very strong. But had Ishii made a different decision, I think we would be talking about a higher chance of us getting through.
You rated the overall tournament performance 7 out of 10. Is that in line with what the rest of the country's thinking? I mean, are people happy? Are they satisfied? Or do they feel... I mean, I still feel disappointed 3-4 days later. You know, I do feel deflated. In fact, I'm blaming it for my current illness. I was absolutely fine till I found out the score. So, yeah, he's got a lot to answer for there. But is that in tune with the rest of the country?
I think everyone's a bit happier. I think most people would say it's an 8 out of 10 because of what happened before, you know, because the coach had barely any time to prepare, because they're ready scapegoats. I think people are genuinely a bit happier than we are from what I've seen on social media and from the various Facebook posts from the clubs talking about their players who went to play. They seem to be satisfied, not happy, but satisfied. And that's a little bit annoying because we shouldn't be satisfied. Look, in reality, we're not the best 8 teams in Asia. But if Tajikistan can pull off something like that, player for player, we're better than Tajikistan. We should be able to pull off an upset like that. But it didn't happen. Half of that is our own doing, and half is just the bad luck that Uzbekistan is just very, very good. I mean, they're a very strong team. And frankly, I will feel a lot better if Uzbekistan go all the way and win the whole thing. Because then we're like, well, what could we have done, you know? It adds more to our tragic hero narrative if Uzbekistan goes and wins the whole thing. I don't want to be a killjoy here and be like, oh, you can't celebrate. Because ultimately, for so many national teams, they don't even get the chance to see their team at this tournament. And so many went home at the first hurdle and didn't even get, and look at India fans, couldn't even celebrate a single goal. So I don't want to tell anyone they can't celebrate. Of course, you should celebrate as much as you want. It's your life. Football's about passion, and it's good to celebrate. I think the players should stop and reflect. Actually, we can do better than that. We should be targeting higher than that. We should see this as creating a desire, like a fire beneath us to go and train harder, work harder, and come back stronger. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is going to breed a bit of complacency, unfortunately.
But Rob made the point on last week's podcast that it wasn't a footballing issue. You know, he said technically, and we all know this, that the Thai players are very good. It's just they lack that bit of strength, physical and mental, I think. And this was very evident in the game against Uzbekistan. You know, that you've just said they were a lot fitter, a lot stronger. How do you think we address that? How can we make that better?
I think if you look at the guys who stepped up for Thailand and made themselves seen, Superchok absolutely came on with a mission to do something about this game. I think Tiraton, after making the error that led to the goal, he picked himself up and was involved in every play. He was demanding the ball, getting into spaces, helping to progress the game. I think you see in common is that these guys have played abroad and they've played at a higher level and they've pushed themselves before. You know, the experience of moving abroad and then having to fight for your place is very difficult. You know, Superchok went for a couple months without playing for Consadole Sapporo, and he must have gone through a lot. He must have been really stressed out. He must have sat there freezing in Hokkaido thinking, what am I doing here? I want to go home and be warm. But he's pushed through it. The outcome is he's a key player for his club and he scored a wonderful goal for his country, that the whole country going to watch that goal and say, wow, what a goal that is. And they're going to remember Superchok. And that's because they have the desire to push themselves. Now, if you will indulge me for a minute, I'm very angry at Weir Tape for betraying Muangthong right now. Videotape he's a fantastic player, and he's very, very good at being on the ball, breaking through a press, playing the right pass. He's fantastic. He's a great player, but he could be an exceptional player if he pushed himself and moved abroad. And Muangthong is the one club more than any other Thai team that provides a platform for players to move abroad. We let Ekanit go, we let Tiraton, Tirasin, Chanatip go. And the door would have been open if Videotape had said, hey, I really want to find a Japanese club. We would have made it happen. We'd have let him go whenever he asked for it. But he's chosen to stay in Thailand. I mean, sure, he gets to play Champions League football. He gets to hopefully win a Thai league for his sake. But he didn't push himself to go abroad. And we know in Thai football, the younger players, they take the impression of the senior players. They do senior players, they emulate them quite a lot. They respect their Lunpi quite a lot in Thailand. So it's important that these guys show and push themselves. I think Chanatip made a huge impact on the young generation by doing that, going abroad and pushing himself. And that's the difference. The ones who stepped up mentally are the ones who have been through mental hardship. And the ones who couldn't step up mentally are the ones who've just played Thai League and relaxed.
It is encouraging to see players wanting to do that now, isn't it? And as you say, certain clubs backing them in order to help them do it. And these partnerships that seem to be springing up all over the place now with Japanese clubs and Korean clubs, that could be the way forward, couldn't it? And that will benefit the national team in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Supachok, he was a bit criticized after the first game against Kyrgyzstan, unfairly, I thought he did a great game. And then he stepped up. The defining moment of the tournament, I think the most memorable moment was his goal, because it was a fantastic goal. And that's a result of him pushing through adversity, looking at his teammates around him and looking at them being a bit afraid and deflated and saying, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the one to take control of the situation. And that's such an admirable thing. And I think it's fantastic. So I'm really happy with Supachok. And I think that moment, that goal will do a lot for people watching at home. I think that goal will inspire people. I hope it will. I hope it'll inspire the guys coming through right now, the young players, 17, 18-year-olds, to think that, okay, if I want to be that kind of player and make a difference for my country, I have to go abroad and play in a better league to reach that level.
Where do we go from here? The Thailand national team. I mean, we've got the World Cup qualifiers to play out. I think they're March and June, aren't they? The next two rounds of games. How do we approach those? What are the expectations and what should we do you think?
I just had a realization that had this tournament taken place when it was supposed to, which is in the summer, and if we got the same results, we'd have been in pot 2 and we would have had an infinitely easier group than we have right now, which is frankly the group of death. So we have to play Korea twice back to back, and then we have to play China away in Beijing and Singapore at home. I mean, Ishii made the comment, which I thought was crazy at the time, when he said, our main target is not to win this tournament, it's to qualify for 2026. Now, I don't think we will qualify for 2026. I don't think it's possible, because there's a little bit of a generation gap in top talents between the age of 30 and 25. So between Chanatip and Supachok, there's a little bit of a gap. But Supachok and younger, we have a lot of kids coming through who are really, really good, sort of my age group. So that's good, but I don't think 2026 World Cup is an achievable target. That being said, making it out of this group will be a fantastic confidence boost for us. It's too complicated for me to figure out if it's better for our ranking to actually qualify for the next round of World Cup qualifying or to go out and go to the Asian Cup qualifying route, which is easier opponents. I don't know what is better for our ranking. But I think qualifying for that last round is imperative to show that we're developing and then have the experience of playing teams like Uzbekistan and Korea, Japan, Jordan, every single international break. So we should qualify for that with the same team, same template. Don't change a thing. Ishii's already worked out this template, so he's got to use it again. Try to get a point against Korea and then try to win by 2 goals in Beijing. Difficult, but not impossible. I think the second one is easier than the first, but one of those two has to occur for us to go through. That's what our task is as Thailand. That's our year.
We've got to remain optimistic, haven't we? There are signs, and as we've said in the course of this conversation, players going abroad, younger players wanting to test themselves, wanting to improve, wanting to learn. It's all pointing to a bright future, I think. Even if we don't qualify for the next round of World Cup matches, let's just hope we give the fans something to cheer, give us something to enjoy over the next few rounds, and maybe snatch something against the Koreans. I've seen it before. I was there at that Asian Games night in '98. Still one of the greatest nights I've ever experienced at a football match. So something like that would be very nice to repeat. So there are reasons for optimism. I think 7 out of 10 is a good platform. Let's keep our fingers crossed that the rest of the year lives up to our expectations, and this has given us something to build on.
Yeah, hopefully. And you know what? It's better to be motivated and optimistic.
Without a doubt. Anyway, thanks, Jan, and thanks for all your reports throughout the tournament as well. They proved really popular, and I enjoyed listening to them. And I've obviously read all your comments on social media as well. So thank you for that. Much appreciated. And we'll speak soon.
Yeah, talk to you soon. Thanks, Dale.
Yeah, great stuff, Jan. I fear nothing will ever change in our lifetime, and not through anyone's fault. It's just through Thai culture. It doesn't mean whether it's wrong or right. They're not going to give up their own power, and it'll always be the same. We can forget it. The players going elsewhere, I'd love that. But who's going to sign them? If the very best can't get in the team, so who's going to sign the rest?
So the club link-ups could provide that bridge, couldn't they? Players going out on loan, that could be part of the deal, and obviously bringing Japanese and Korean players over here. I guess that's how they want it to work. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because obviously as a fan of a club side, you don't want to be losing your best players. But for the interests of the national team, which is what we were focusing on during that interview, it would be nice to see. You know, as a Chonburi fan, I wouldn't want to lose our best players overseas or anywhere for that matter. But for the good of the national team, it makes perfect sense.
It does, but will it have any long-term results? I'll be honest, I know I sound very pessimistic about it. We're better off just getting on with it and cheering for our club sides.
I think we'll come back to this in episode 333 of a Thai football podcast and see if we're any further down the line, see how things have changed.
No chance.
I'm Lily, and I've been listening to a Thai football podcast.
Coming up next, we've got Rick Yap. Now, Rick is a Singaporean, lives and works in Singapore, but he follows Thai football. So I thought it'd be nice to catch up with him, have a little chat, how he got interested in Thai football, who he supports, what his thoughts are of the Thai League, and how it compares to his local S League. So this is me and Rick talking the other day. Hello, Rick, and welcome along to a Thai football podcast. How are you?
I'm good, Dale. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Looking forward to T1 starting up again next weekend. So I'm excited about that. But I've been enjoying the AFC Asian Cup and obviously the lower league games here in Thailand.
I see. Yes, I'm looking forward to the restart of the Thai League as well.
And you're a Muangthong United fan, is that right?
That's right.
So we've got you on this week, basically because you're Singaporean, but you closely follow the Thai League. So how did you first get interested in following Thai football and why?
There used to be quite a number of Thai players who played in the Singapore League, plus the fact that my wife is Thai. So I decided to watch a little bit of Thai football, and I just found it to be very interesting, and they play good football. I just continued watching Thai League every week, and my interest just grew from there. As to why I choose Muangthong, there's no particular reason. Out of all the teams, I just decided to choose Muangthong as the team that I wanted to support.
So which Thai players do you remember playing in the Singapore League?
I used to watch the current Bangkok United coach, Dr. Wan Sripan, and Suti as well, Suti Susomkit. Yeah, and there was Surachai as well.
Yeah, I remember that era very well. At the time, the Thai League wasn't the great locomotive that we see now. It was very much a poor relation, wasn't it? Singapore League and the V League in Vietnam, they were kind of leading the way. And these were leagues we always looked to quite enviously. And as you say, a lot of the Thai talent used to go over there. When did this start to change? When do you think the whole thing kind of turned on its head and Thailand became a much more exciting proposition for local players and overseas players?
I think the boom in the Thai League began from year 2009, and it was all due to all the rich and famous people who started dumping money into the league and building the clubs up. So I think that is where it started to become a really professional and exciting league.
So how is the Thai League viewed from Singapore now? Are you quite unique? Are you the only one who's interested in following it, or does it have quite a lot of interest from the locals there?
There are more Singaporean fans watching the Thai League right now because we have some Singaporean players who are playing in the Thai League, BG Patum in particular. I've seen Singaporeans wearing Thai League teams jerseys when I'm out there, so I think it's gaining some traction in Singapore.
That's really good to hear. Well, it's good for the Thai League, probably not so good for the Singapore League because it's quite difficult for them to compete, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Singapore League has been on the downside for the past few years. I guess we really need financial support. The current team would be the Lion City Sailors, where we've seen the owner dump in quite a huge amount of money and is beginning to gain more interest from the fans out there. So I hope it will just continue for the Singapore League.
It's difficult, isn't it, for Singapore being such a small place to kind of
Yes.
maintain a 10-team league, really. Could you see a time in the future when the Singaporean clubs maybe apply to join the Thai League, for example? I mean, it has been talked about before. I vaguely remember this discussion coming up. I mean, is that something that you'd like to see? Is it something that you think would be possible?
I would like to see that, but I don't think it's possible because there will be too much teams in the league. But we do see BG Patum going into some sort of a cooperation with Tampines Rovers, which is a Singapore League team. So who knows? Maybe something will be there in the future.
How do you manage to follow the Thai games? Do you get to see them on the internet, or are you able to subscribe to the TV channels? How does it work in Singapore as regards watching?
Yeah, most of the matches I've seen, I watch it from the internet.
Are they quite easy to access?
They are actually, we do get them on YouTube.
That's good to hear. So what do you think about the situation so far? I mean, obviously, we alluded to it at the start of the chat. We've just coming off the long break for the AFC Asian Cup. So what have been your thoughts of the T1 season so far?
It's been a great season, better than the previous seasons where Buriram United ran away with the league. It's a lot tighter this season. Bangkok United is leading the way, but we've seen BG Patum getting some new players into the team as well as Buriram United. So I guess the second leg of the season will be a lot more interesting.
It's shaping up that way, isn't it? I agree with you. I think it's going to be one of the best title races we've had for a long time. Would you care to make a prediction? Who do you think is going to come out on top at the end of it?
Oh, I don't know, but I think BG Patum might be a different team in the second leg, and we have to see if Bangkok United have the stamina to go all the way from now. And Buriram United, I mean, you can never write these guys off, right?
They seem to be getting stronger, don't they? And the murmurs of Papas getting the boot seem to be disappearing quite rapidly. They've made quite a few signings in the window, so we'll see how they all gel for the second leg of the season. And what about your own team? What are your expectations for Mung Tong for the second leg?
Well, a top four finish would be great, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I guess the target for the rest of the season is to just continue to stay in T1, develop the players, and we'll see how it goes from there. Because I think right now, most of the Muntong fans, we are not hoping for the league title or anything like that. Maybe a League Cup or a FA Cup is nice, but that's pretty much about it.
What do you think they need to do to restore their former glories?
I guess they need to get a really good sponsor because we've seen how things went downhill when SCG left as a main sponsor for the club. So money is a big thing in football these days. And of course, we have the Meng Tong Academy to back us up. But ultimately, I think a huge sponsorship is still very vital for the team's title race.
Yeah, I think you've hit on a good point there. It can't be underestimated, can it? The fact that you need a good sponsor, someone who's willing to pump the money in, because ticket sales alone and even merchandise sales for many, many clubs just aren't enough for them to be able to compete. Do you manage to get over for many games in Thailand?
Yes, I did, but it was a long time ago. My last Meng Tong match was probably in year 2015. But I'm trying to go for a game maybe in March or April.
Oh, that would be great if you could get across. I mean, we've talked about Thai League fans in Singapore. Are there any other Mung Tong fans near you?
Not that I know of, although I do seen some people wearing Meng Tong shirts on the streets, but I'm not sure how much interest do they have in the Thai League.
Or if they just like the shirt?
Probably.
Well, hopefully, if they hear this interview, they might come and approach you and you could arrange something. Maybe get-togethers to watch matches or something. That'd be quite nice.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Anyway, it's been great to talk to you, Rick, and it's so nice to hear that, fans in other countries follow the Thai League. Do you get to many S-League games as well? Do you follow the local league?
Yes, I do follow the local league and it's free to view on YouTube.
Oh, that's good. Maybe we'll get you on again in the future and we can chat about Singaporean football as well. because I am
Sure.
interested, and obviously there are a lot of connections between there and Thailand. So thanks so much for that, Rick. Really appreciate it. Good luck to Muangthong for the rest of the season, and hopefully you can get over and watch a match or two.
Yes, thanks a lot, Dale. Thanks for having me on the Thai Football Podcast. All the best to you and to Chonburi for the second leg of the season.
So thanks very much, Rick. Really appreciate that. Take care, mate, and hopefully see you in Thailand soon.
Okay, Dale. Thanks a lot. See you soon. Take care.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. And it's great to have another listener contribute.
It's good, isn't it, to have foreign fans interested in our local league? I mean, sometimes we forget how appealing it is. Sometimes we focus too much on the negatives, but it's certainly doing something right if it's attracting fans from overseas, which is a great thing, I think.
Like me and you.
Absolutely. I mean, I suppose the main difference is that Rick hasn't lived in Thailand. I mean, his wife's Thai, so there is a big connection there. But I think it's great. It's lovely to hear, and the fact he's very knowledgeable on the subject as well. And it'd be lovely if he could make it across in March or April.
It wouldn't. It's great that he can get the coverage over there, isn't it?
He was a bit sheepish though, wasn't he? I don't know if is it legal the way he's watching it? I wasn't sure. I didn't want to press him on it just in case. Okay, moving on. It's our T3 roundup for this week, and we've got a very special report now from you, Rob. I loved listening to this. This was proper Soccer Saturday 5 Live stuff, this, where you were reporting on 2 games from the comfort of your hammock. How did you manage to watch both? Have you got 2 TV screens up there?
I had the TV screen with the Sisaket game, a mobile device watching the Surin City, and my Amazon Fire, I was watching the test match.
That's a fantastic setup. Probably better than most television companies, I would think, in Thailand.
The only problem is every time I had to file a report to you, I had to break off the Surin game. I was praying I didn't miss a goal.
All right, so it could not be 100% accurate then. You might have missed something. Anyway, this is you, Rob, with your double report from the weekend's T3 Northeast fixtures. Listen and enjoy. Rob's Reclining Report.
Yes, Dale, good afternoon, and a roving report from the reclining position. No games in my vicinity this afternoon, so instead I'm turning my attention to the battle for the title in T3 North East. Some very interesting results midweek. Sisaket United beat third place Surin City 2-1 in a very tense encounter. Meanwhile, Marasarakam drew 0-0 away to Ubon. So that leaves Sisaket 4 points clear at the top, but Marasarakam have got a game in hand. Second place side Marasarakam today head to Surin City, who are in third place. I'll be keeping an eye on that encounter, but my main feature will be the game which sees Udon United at home to Sisaket United. The teams are out, they're just standing to attention for the King's Anthem, so we'll update as we go. Around 25 minutes gone in both games, both 0-0 at the moment. The Udon against Sisaket game played on a pitch. Well, I'm not saying it's dusty, but I expected the captain who won the toss to ask his opponents to bat first. There's little wonder quality is poor at times in T3. I do wish some clubs, instead of spending money on overseas players, would get together whoever has the ground and pay for a decent pitch, and then we can see players properly develop. Sisaket playing today without their star player Panagatsi, who sat on the bench. He was injured midweek and went off early for the second game in succession. It's a bold move, but if he's not right, he's not right, as they say. The other game, fine move from Surin on a pitch not dissimilar, thwarted by the Marasarakam keeper. That's about the only action in both games so far. In mitigation to the players as well as the pitch, it's hot. I am hot, sat in front of a fan. So those guys running around in the Isan heat, full credit to them. 0-0 in both games halfway through the first half. A big moment in Surrendale, 40th minute, and Marasarakam go 1-up. Been nothing in it between the sides. Couple of chances at either end, nothing too much to write home about. Then a fine move, a low cross converted. 1-0 to the visitors. So half-time in both games in T3 North East. Scores on the board so far. Surin City 0, Marasaricum SBT 1. And a fluent move put the visitors ahead after 40 minutes. Meanwhile, in the north of the region, up at Udon, Tani, 0-0, a game lacking in quality cohesion on a shocking playing surface. No chances for either side in that game. We'll see how the second half pans out. Well. Goal in Surin, the hosts have equalised. 5 minutes into the second half, a cross from a set piece came over right very deep to the back post. The ball put back in. It bobbled about. It looked as though the guy who scored the goal had a clearance cannoned against him, and it looped over the keeper. Not that he'll care, not that Caesar fans will care, and certainly not Surin City fans will care. 1-1. Still 0-0 in the other game in Udon, which is about 5 minutes ahead. Well, Dale, there's plenty of going on the device that I'm using to send in my report that I have to keep breaking away from, as Marasaricum have retaken the lead in Surin. 2-1, 15 minutes into the second half there. Laying down the gauntlet to league leader Seasiket, who are still 0-0 at Udon, with neither side really looking like creating a clear-cut chance. Dale, another twist in the promotion battle from T3 North East. It's 2-2 now in Surin. A corner came in, there was a lot of scrambling in the box before it was slammed home. About 10 or 15 minutes left in that game. It must be hotter down in the south than up in Udon, because the teams have had drinks breaks in both halves. So 2-2 in Surin at the moment. Still 0-0 between Udon and Seasiket United. What a game in Surin. Marasaricum have gone back in the lead. I don't believe it. They really are a good side. They're big and strong and physical, and they've got something about them. Well, could that be a massive factor in who finishes top in this league? We're in the 93rd minute in Udon, and neither side have really looked like scoring, not through lack of effort. It's just not happened for either side. Pitch not doing them any favours. So, as we stand, it's Udon 0, Seasiket United 0, but Surin City 2, Marasaricum 3. Full time at the top of the northeastern section of T3, and the scores are in classified check. Udon United 0, Seasiket United 0, Surin City 2, Marasaricum SBT 3. Yeah, and the result of that is that if Marasaricum win the game in hand, they go top of the league. And they deserve it. What a fantastic performance. They were pegged back twice at Surin, went on to win the game, hung on for grim death right through to the 6 minutes of stoppage time. The other game, well, it just wasn't going to happen for either side. As I say, not through lack of trying. I don't know what they do to that pitch during the week, but they need to stop doing it. Awful. So, Wednesday afternoon, there's another round of games in the division. We'll see where we are after that. Next week, Seasiket sit out, so Marasaricum play the game in hand. So that's all for this week. Seasiket's still top of the table, but as I say, they can be overtaken.
That was brilliant. Really enjoyed that. Spot on. And you got to do your classified football results voice again. Nice to see that making a reappearance.
Well, I do request, Dale.
Oh, you might regret saying that.
Just on that link, on the same sort of connection, there's football tomorrow in T3, Wednesday afternoon. Now, there's not been any football in Seasiket last weekend. There's 2 clubs bearing in mind, and there's nothing here next weekend. Tomorrow afternoon, both sides are at home. It's little things like that, though, that, that could improve on, just a bit of common sense. There's quite a lot of people go to watch both Seasiket and Rice Salai. I know myself and my mate, we're going to go to the first half of the first game and then watch the full game at Seasiket.
Yeah, like you say, it's just a little bit of thought, isn't it? You'd think it'd be quite an easy thing to sort out, wouldn't you?
You would. Not to worry. I mean, not in the grand scheme of things, it's not important. But if you're trying to promote a league properly, they're the things you've got to get right.
Mind you, now you're adept at watching 2 games at once. once, you could probably do that, couldn't you? Watch them both.
I suppose I could go up see Saket Tower, which is equidistant.
What's the view like from up there?
You can see into the new stadium where AC Salai play, similar to the away end at West Ham.
Hi, I'm Sabina. I'm listening to a Thai football podcast.
Now we've got some more T3 coverage here. We've got Clinton, who watches a lot of games in the Bangkok region. I caught up with him a couple of days ago and we talked about some recent matches he's been to. Plus, he gives us a nice rundown as the league comes into its final few weeks. So here's me and Clinton talking about T3 Bangkok. Hello, Clinton. It's good to have you back on the programme again. It's been a while.
Hello again, Dale. Yes, I'm still watching my Thai football.
Anyway, you've come on predominantly today to talk about T3 and the Bangkok region because you've been to a few games recently. So can you just bring us up to speed? Which matches have you watched in the last couple of weeks?
So last week on the 27th of January, I popped over to Chulalongkorn University for Chamchuri United versus Inter Bangkok. 50 baht for a ticket. Very easy to get to and central. About 150 to 250 in attendance there. It was a 0-0. My streak of no 0-0 games was broken. I think I was up to about 13 or 14. Not the worst 0-0 you'll ever see, but neither team, they just couldn't score. Especially the home team. They hit the bar. They had some cracking saves from the Inter keeper. Missed open goals. It had it all. And then that followed into this weekend, just gone, when I went back for some more, Chamchuri United versus Icon RSU under the stewardship of Rangsit University, I believe. So Chamchuri United are a mid-table team. Icon are second from the bottom. They just come off a loss against bottom Nonthaburi. They were on a 4-game losing streak and up against mid-table Chamchuri. So I went along and it finished 1-0 to the away side, Icon RSU. So that snapped their 4-game losing streak. They now sit 3 points above Nonthaburi on the table, three points above the relegation zone. Again, this game, Icon, they didn't have much of the chances. Again, the home team butchered many of their chances, open goals, missed, one-on-ones missed. It had it all. So again, the home fans walked away frustrated with their team's inability to score. Really important win for Icon RSU, that one. So that was the Saturday, just gone. And then on the Sunday, I really wanted to go to Kasem Pandit University to see them take on Bangkok FC, but I didn't for various reasons, and I ended up in Nonthaburi to watch Nonthaburi United, bottom of the table, versus Samut Prakan FC, third from bottom. Again, not a great match in prospect, but it actually turned out to be a better affair than I thought for a bottom of the table encounter. And I just love these sort of grounds because there's no reason for many people to go to these places other than the football. And you just, you see places in Thailand that you wouldn't ordinarily go to. It's just great. And you have all sorts of experiences. Entry was free. A local fan told me that was because the team had been so bad. There was an announcement made that they were going to open up the gates because the team had only won one game in the season up until this point. The game finished 3-1 to the home team, Nonthaburi. So they've actually won 2 on the trot now. They're undefeated in 5. So they're staging a late little comeback to hang on in T3. And interestingly, Samut Prakan FC had a young Australian lad, Nicholas Boyd, playing for them on the wing, which was another sort of Thai league random gem find. So he did okay, but Samut Prakan FC as a whole struggled. And Nonthaburi United, have an eye on them to keep up their streak and maybe hang on and stay on in T3.
It's certainly looking very tight down at the bottom there. Like you say, Nonthaburi are on a good run, and they needed to be because they were quite isolated, weren't they, for a time? But now they're only 3 points away from safety. Do you think they'll manage to pull it off and escape relegation?
I could run through the T3 Bangkok area table if you like and just give a bit of state of play. So there's 14 clubs in T3 Bangkok, 26 games each. So each club has played 22 games. There's 4 games left. Bangkok FC sits at the top undefeated. They won 11 games in a row earlier in the season, but they're 5 points clear of also perennial top 2 finishers, North Bangkok. So they're 5 points clear. So really the battle is only on for second at the top, and only the top two, of course, go through to the playoffs. And there's only 6 teams left that can mathematically qualify for first and second, and that's Bangkok FC, North Bangkok, Samut Sakhon, Thonburi United, Ghasim Bandit University, and Prime Bangkok. Then there's quite a gap to seventh. And the last game of the season is actually Bangkok FC versus North Bangkok. So potentially first versus second for a nice way to end the season. Down the table, that's where it gets interesting. Relegation. So Nonthaburi are currently last, and they have not lost in 5 games. They're on 13 points. Second last is Icon RSU on 16 points. And then we have 3 teams in 10th, 11th, and 12th on 17 points. That's VRN, Wangnon, Inter Bangkok, and Samut Prakan FC. Out of the last 15 games those teams have had combined, only Samut Prakan FC has won one of those games. So they're all on a bit of a shocking run. And that's why I'm saying that perhaps Nonthaburi is in with a shot to stay up, even though they are 4 points behind those teams on 17 points. So realistically, any of the last 5 could go down. And out of the teams I've seen, Inter Bangkok have been average, but I don't think they'll go down. And I think it will be probably down to Samut Prakan FC or Icon that goes down. I think Nonthaburi might sneak in and hold on.
I was looking at Bangkok FC's Facebook page the other day, and they seem to be a very ambitious club. They've got a nice little media setup there. The chairman seems to be heavily involved with the fan base, and obviously they're top of the league. They're 5 points clear and looking certainties to get into those playoffs. Do you think they've got the wherewithal, and do you think they've got the structure in order to be successful?
Yes, I had a look at the last few seasons as well, and they've made a couple of the playoff stages, but have had pretty disappointing results. I think it might be different this year, and their signings this year, they've come in with that approach to be a bit of a cut above. I saw also they signed one of these, club partnership deals with Vegalta Sendai in the Japanese second division. So obviously, as you said, Dale, there's all sorts of things happening behind the scenes to get them to be a well-run club that could potentially go up to T2. I'm not sure how big their attendances are. Yes, I haven't actually watched them in person this season, but I definitely want to watch them once before the playoffs and then in the playoffs. You can't argue with their record, undefeated this season, but how they stack up against the rest of the T3 teams across the country, perhaps Rob would have some insights as well.
Now, I've got to ask Clinton, it'd be remiss of me not to. What is the appeal for you of going to these T3 grounds and to see these T3 teams? Like you say, you've seen a couple of stinkers recently. There's a couple of 100 people in attendance. Obviously, you need to dig out the information. So what is it about going to T3 Bangkok Zone League games that appeals to you?
Can I just say, in terms of finding the stadiums, if you go to the Thai League website, it actually has a link to the actual Google Map point of each stadium for each team. And also during the game, you can go to the fixtures list and click on the English team sheet list, and you get a list of the players and all the match info in English. I've gone to more T3 simply because there hasn't been any other T1 football on. Also, I just love exploring new parts of Bangkok, and my in a professional capacity, I'm an urban city planner, so I like heading out to different parts of the city and seeing how to get out there and how different neighborhoods are and how these clubs connect with their communities. I've also taken people to games. I took someone to Chula, and an Australian friend of mine, we popped along to a couple of T3 games over the last few months as well, and they just love it. It's a different side of football and Thailand that they just wouldn't get anywhere else. Have an open mind. You're not going to see technically the best football, but you're going to go and, number one, of course, get to know the Thai league and the players and all that sort of stuff, but you also get to see a different part of Bangkok or Thailand through football. And it's just a really interesting experience and day out, and you never quite know what's going to happen or where you're going to end up.
And what about the standard of the grounds, the stadium?
Highly variable. The best one I've been to is Ghasim Bandit University. That's a really good boutique little stadium. It's in a very green setting on the campus there, so it almost feels like playing in a garden. There's a mixture of other stadiums, your normal athletics tracks, venues. It's variable. I wish there are more compact stadiums, but I think, as you've discussed on the show before, most of these facilities play a wider role in the community, and the football team is not the most important tenant. So, and the pitch quality, of course, can be variable, and getting to these places as well can also be a variable experience in Bangkok.
It just adds to the fun, I guess.
It does, yes, and getting there is part of the fun, and working out how to get to some of these grounds. Certainly when I've gone with some friends before, we've had to cap it, because you are doing these equations about bus times, and if you're not able to get there via MRT or BTS, so that's half the fun as well, working out how to get to these places.
That's been brilliant. Thank you so much, Clinton. Really appreciate that, and carry on enjoying T3.
Thanks, Dale. And if Bangkok FC does end up playing Sisakit in the playoffs, we'll have to get Rob and I together to have a chat if Rob's up for it. And I don't know if Rob has plans to go around the country for the playoffs, but we can see what happens.
Rob's always up for a chat, Clinton, so you don't need to worry about that.
Excellent.
That's brilliant.
Thanks a lot, Dale. And thanks for the podcast and all you do. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Well, first of all, what a fantastic roundup that is of the Bangkok League. And secondly, man after my own heart, I couldn't agree more, Clinton. Getting out there, I thought it was me talking about trying to work journeys out, seeing new experiences. And it is all about the experience, as Clinton quite rightly said. You're not always going to see a classic, rarely in fact, but you can still have an absolute quality day out.
And he really seems to be enjoying it, doesn't he?
Oh, massively, massively. It was great to hear his enthusiasm. Very much like Marco we had on the show a while ago.
And at the top, Bangkok FC, as I said during our chat, they do seem to be moving in the right direction. I've been very impressed with what I've seen on and off the field at that club.
Good club. They're the best side I've seen at Sisakit all year when they won here in the FA Cup.
So we'll keep our eye on them, and we might be seeing them in T2 next season.
I think there'll be an addition. They'll certainly draw the crowds.
So that's about it for this week. Just a quick reminder that T1 starts up again on Friday night. Whoever you support, wherever you're going, get out there, have a great weekend watching Thai football.
Yeah, have fun wherever you go, folks, and stay safe.